My daughter asked me to watch her children for 2 weeks because their daycare was supposedly closed. On the 10th day, I ran into another mother whose son attended the same daycare. I smiled and said, "I'll be glad when they finally reopen next week." She looked at me like I'd said something strange. "Reopen?" "Yes. The daycare." She shook her head. "They've been open all month." For a moment, I thought she must be mistaken. Maybe Noah's classroom had closed. Maybe there had been a staffing problem she didn't know about. So I called the daycare myself. The woman who answered confirmed there had been no closure. Then she checked Lily and Noah's records. My grandchildren hadn't been temporarily absent. They had been withdrawn. I asked when. She gave me the date. It was the Friday before Jennifer called, asking me for 2 weeks of help. I stood there, holding my phone, trying to understand what that meant. My daughter hadn't asked me to cover a childcare emergency. She had already replaced daycare with me. She just hadn't told me. 2 weeks earlier, Jennifer had called me on a Sunday evening. I was cleaning up after dinner when my phone rang. "Mom, I need a huge favor." Those words usually meant one of the children was sick. Jennifer was 44 and had 2 children. Lily was 7. Noah was 4. I had always helped when I could. If Lily needed to be picked up early from school, I went. If Noah woke up with a fever and Jennifer had an important meeting, I sometimes stayed with him. I loved my grandchildren, and because I was retired, I had more flexibility than Jennifer and her husband, Brian. But flexibility and availability are not the same thing. I didn't understand how important that distinction would become. "What happened?" I asked. "The daycare is having staffing problems." "What kind of problems?" "They have to close temporarily." "For how long?" "Probably 2 weeks." "Probably?" "That's what they're telling parents." I could hear the stress in her voice. "What are you going to do?" "That's why I'm calling. I already knew what was coming." "Could you watch the kids?" "Both of them?" "Lily would still go to school. You'd have Noah during the day, then you'd pick Lily up." "Every day?" "Just until daycare reopens." I looked at the calendar hanging beside my refrigerator. Tuesday morning, I had my walking group. Thursday, I volunteered at a community thrift shop. The following week, I had a dental appointment. None of those things were emergencies. But they were my plans. "How early?" "We'd need you around 7:15. "And what time would you be home?" 5:15 at the latest." I hesitated. Jennifer heard it. "Mom, I wouldn't ask if we had another option. That did it." "All right. You will?" "For 2 weeks." "Thank you." She sounded genuinely relieved. Then she laughed and said, "You have no idea how much you're saving us." At the time, I thought she meant stress. I didn't know she meant money. Monday morning, I arrived at 7:15. Jennifer was already dressed for work. Brian was putting coffee into a travel mug. Noah was still in pajamas. Lily couldn't find one of her shoes. Within 10 minutes, Jennifer was handing me lunch boxes, explaining pickup times, and reminding me Noah needed a snack around 10. Then she kissed both children. "Thank you again, Mom." Brian picked up his keys. "This is a lifesaver." They left. The first day wasn't bad. I got Lily to school. Noah and I went back to my house. We colored. We watched part of a children's movie. I made him lunch. He refused half of it. At 3, we picked Lily up. At 5:15, I expected Jennifer. She arrived at 5:30. Traffic, no problem. Tuesday, she came home at 5:40. Wednesday, almost 6. On Thursday morning, Jennifer called before I left my house. "Could you come 15 minutes earlier?" "Why?" "I have a meeting." I looked at the clock. "I'll try." That morning, I skipped my walking group. I told myself I'd be back the following Tuesday. Thursday, I missed my volunteer shift. The thrift shop didn't collapse without me. Nobody was angry. Still, I had committed to being there. The next Monday, I moved my dental appointment. Jennifer couldn't find anyone to cover the children for 2 hours. The receptionist offered me an appointment 3 weeks later. I took it. Again, I told myself, 1 more week. The children weren't the problem. Noah was energetic, but he was 4. That was his job. Lily liked telling me everything that happened at school. I enjoyed being with them. But caring for 2 children on a fixed schedule 5 days a week was different from being their grandmother for an afternoon. I couldn't decide at 10 in the morning to go somewhere. I couldn't schedule an appointment without checking Jennifer's work calendar. My weekdays were no longer mine. Still, Friday was coming. Then the arrangement would end. At least, that was what I believed. During the second week, Jennifer started adding little tasks. Could you pick up milk while you're out? Can you stop at the pharmacy? Lily needs poster board for school. None of those requests was unreasonable by itself. The problem was the phrase Jennifer used repeatedly. You're already out with the kids. By Wednesday, I was making lunch when Brian came into the kitchen unexpectedly. He had finished work early. He watched Noah building something with plastic blocks. Then he said, "Honestly, this setup works better than daycare." I looked at him. "What setup?" "This." He gestured toward the kitchen. "The kids are happier. It's only for 2 weeks." His expression changed, just slightly. Then Jennifer walked in from the hallway. Brian looked at her. She immediately said, "Of course, we know." Something about the exchange bothered me, but I didn't push. That afternoon, Lily gave me the next clue. I was driving her home from school when she said, "I like Grandma Daycare better." I smiled. "Grandma Daycare closes Friday." She laughed. "No, it doesn't." "Yes, it does." "Mom said we don't have to go back to daycare anymore." I looked at her in the rearview mirror. "What?" She said, "Grandma's house is better." "Did she say you weren't going back?" Lily shrugged. "I think so. She was 7. Children misunderstand things." I wasn't going to interrogate my granddaughter. That evening, I asked Jennifer. "Lily said something strange today." "What?" "She thinks the kids aren't going back to daycare." Jennifer barely reacted. "You know how Lily is." "What does that mean?" "She probably misunderstood something Brian and I were talking about." "So they are going back?" Jennifer opened the refrigerator. "We're still figuring out exactly what happens next." That was not the answer I expected. "You told me 2 weeks." "I know. Friday is 2 weeks." "I know, Mom." "Then what are you figuring out?" "The daycare is still dealing with things." "What things?" "Staffing." I watched her. "Is it reopening Monday?" She hesitated. "We may need a little more flexibility." There it was. "How much more?" "I don't know yet." "I have plans Tuesday." "What plans?" "My walking group." Jennifer turned around. "Can you move it?" The question irritated me more than it should have. "No." She blinked. "No?" "No. I've already missed 2 weeks." "Mom, it's a walking group." "Yes. You can go the following week." "Jennifer, you told me this was temporary." "It is temporary." "Then when does it end?" She rubbed her forehead. "Can we not do this tonight?" I looked at her. She seemed nervous, not annoyed, nervous. That stayed with me. The following afternoon, I picked Lily up from an activity near the daycare center. As we walked toward my car, I saw a woman named Amanda. Her son had been in Noah's group. I'd seen her at several birthday parties. We exchanged greetings. Then I nodded toward the daycare building. "I'll be glad when they finally reopen." Amanda frowned. "Reopen?" "Yes." I pointed. "The daycare." "They're open. I mean fully." She looked even more confused. "They've been open all month." I felt something tighten in my chest. I thought they had staffing problems. They're always short somebody. She laughed. "But they didn't close. Was Noah's room closed?" "No. Ethan's in the same group." I don't remember what I said after that. Something polite. Something normal. I put Lily in the car. Then, before starting the engine, I called the daycare. I introduced myself as Lily and Noah's grandmother. I asked whether there had been a closure. No, ma'am. Not even one classroom? Not recently. I looked through the windshield. Are Lily and Noah still enrolled? There was a pause while she checked. No, it looks like they were withdrawn. When? She gave me the date. The Friday before Jennifer called me. I thanked her and hung up. I didn't call Jennifer. Not yet. I wanted to understand what I had just discovered. The next evening, Brian gave me the answer without realizing it. He came home around 5:30. Jennifer wasn't there yet. The children were watching television. I was putting dishes into the dishwasher when Brian opened the refrigerator. He said, I don't know how we would have made this refinance work without cutting that daycare payment. I stopped. What refinance? He looked at me. Then his expression changed. It was the same expression I'd seen the week before. You didn't know? Know what? He closed the refrigerator. We refinanced after the renovations. I knew they'd remodeled the kitchen and replaced part of the back deck. I didn't know how they'd financed it. How does daycare have anything to do with that? Brian looked uncomfortable. We were paying $16.50 a month for both kids. I know daycare is expensive. Once we took that out of the monthly budget, everything looked a lot better. Took it out? He realized exactly where the conversation was going. I asked, Did you know Jennifer told me the daycare closed? He didn't answer. That was an answer. Brian, we talked about different options. Did you know? Yes. I put the dish towel on the counter. So the daycare money is helping pay your mortgage. It's not exactly like that. Then explain it. The payment went up after the refinance. Getting rid of daycare gave us room. And you got rid of daycare because I was going to watch the children? We thought it could work. You thought. He looked toward the living room. Jennifer was supposed to talk to you. She did. She told me the daycare closed for 2 weeks. Brian rubbed the back of his neck. We didn't mean for you to feel trapped. Then what happens if I stop? He answered too quickly. We'd have to redo everything. There it was. My daughter hadn't simply discovered that I was convenient. My time had already become part of their financial plan. I waited until the children were not around. Saturday morning, I asked Jennifer to come to my house alone. She sat across from me at the kitchen table. What's wrong? I didn't waste time. Why did you tell me the daycare closed? Her face went still. What? I called them. She looked away. Mom, they never closed. It was more complicated than that. No, it's very simple. You told me something that wasn't true. We were having problems with the daycare. You withdrew the children before you asked me to watch them. Silence. Why? Jennifer crossed her arms. The daycare was costing us $1,600 every month. $1,650, according to Brian. Her face changed. You talked to Brian? He talked to me. She sighed. We were under pressure. So you canceled daycare. We had been thinking about it for months. And you decided I would replace it. We didn't decide that. What did you decide? She hesitated. Then she said, We thought once you got used to the schedule, you'd see it wasn't a big deal. I stared at her. That sentence hurt more than the lie about the daycare. You didn't ask because you thought I'd say no. I thought you'd say no before giving it a chance. That's still no. Mom, look at how well it's worked. For whom? The kids love being with you. I love being with them. Then what's the problem? 5 days a week is the problem. You're retired. There it was. 2 words that explained more than Jennifer probably intended. You think because I'm retired my time is free. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. She leaned forward. We're family. Yes. Why are you talking like we're employers asking you to work? Because you've scheduled 35 to 50 hours of my week without telling me the arrangement was permanent? Permanent? Nobody said permanent. Then when does it end? She couldn't answer. Instead, she started talking about money. The mortgage, daycare, Brian's overtime becoming unreliable, the cost of everything. Then she said, "If you stop now, you put us in a terrible position." I sat back. No, you put yourselves in that position when you built your budget around something I never agreed to. Her eyes filled with anger. What are we supposed to do? Find childcare. You know how hard that is. Yes. And expensive. Yes. They're your grandchildren. I let that sentence sit for a moment. And does being their grandmother mean you get to schedule 5 days of my week without asking? You're making this transactional. No, Jennifer. I kept my voice calm. You made it financial when you put my free childcare into your mortgage budget. She looked away. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she said, "So you're just done?" No. That surprised her. "I'm giving you 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Yes, I will keep the current schedule for 2 more weeks while you arrange something else. That's not enough time. It's more time than you gave me to decide whether I wanted this job. It's not a job. Then stop budgeting around it like one." She looked furious. "What if we can't find anything?" "Then you'll have a childcare problem." She stared at me. "You're their grandmother." "Yes, and after these 2 weeks, I can take them one afternoon each week." "One afternoon?" "Wednesday." "Why Wednesday?" "Because that's the day I'm choosing." She looked almost offended by the answer. I continued, "If there's a real emergency and I'm available, call me. Sometimes I'll help." "Sometimes?" "Yes." She shook her head. "I cannot believe you're doing this." I almost corrected her. Then I decided not to. Jennifer needed to understand that I was doing something. I was making a decision about my own time. The next 2 weeks were uncomfortable. Jennifer stopped asking me to run extra errands. Brian became excessively polite. They toured 2 childcare centers. One had a waiting list. Another could take Noah, but not provide the exact schedule they wanted. They found an after-school program for Lily. Jennifer adjusted 2 work days. Brian arranged to start later one morning each week. None of it was as easy as having me available every weekday. That was the point. My availability had been valuable precisely because it solved problems they would otherwise have to solve themselves. On the final Friday, I picked Lily up from school. Noah and I made cookies. At 5:30, Jennifer arrived. The children's bags were ready by the door. She looked at them. "So this is really it?" "For weekdays, yes. We found a place for Noah." "Good. Lily can do the after-school program." "That sounds workable." "It costs almost as much as before." I nodded. "I know." She looked at me. "You could save us that money." There was no anger in her voice that time. Just frustration. "Yes," I said. She waited. "By giving you 5 days of my week." Jennifer looked down. I continued. "My retirement is not the free part of your household budget." She didn't answer. Noah ran into the kitchen holding one of his toy cars. "Grandma, Wednesday?" I smiled. "Yes, Wednesday." Jennifer looked at me. At least she'd told him the truth this time. Monday morning, I woke up at 7. For a second, my body expected the alarm. Then I remembered. I made coffee. At 9, I went grocery shopping. Tuesday, I returned to my walking group. One of the women laughed when she saw me. "We thought you'd abandoned us." Temporary grandmother duty. This time, temporary actually meant temporary. Thursday, I went back to the thrift shop. My life wasn't suddenly exciting. That wasn't what I'd been fighting for. I simply had my schedule back. Wednesday afternoon, I picked Noah up. Later, Lily joined us. We made grilled cheese sandwiches and played a board game. At 5:30, Jennifer arrived. She didn't ask me to keep them longer. She didn't hand me a schedule for Thursday. She said, "Thanks, Mom." And I said, "You're welcome." That felt different. A few weeks later, Jennifer told me, "I still think it made more sense for you to watch them." I smiled. "For you, it did." She rolled her eyes, but she didn't argue. We still had disagreements. Sometimes she asked for an extra day. Sometimes I said yes. Sometimes I said no. The biggest change was a very small question. Jennifer stopped saying, "I need you Thursday." She started saying, "Are you available Thursday?" Those words gave the decision back to me. I still loved helping my family. I still loved having my grandchildren at my house. But helping family is something I choose to give. It stops being help when somebody else starts budgeting around it. If your daughter canceled paid childcare because she assumed you would babysit for free, would you keep helping? And how many days a week do you think is reasonable for grandparents to provide regular childcare? Tell me in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy senior family stories about adult children, family boundaries, money, caregiving, and the conflicts older women face inside their own families, please like this video and subscribe to the channel.